From the outside, they look like a contradiction. Too quiet to be confident. Too intense to be calm. Too distant to be disinterested. You can't quite place them, and that's exactly the impression they leave behind. A magnetic strangeness that lingers after the moment has passed. People call them complicated, confusing, even impossible to read. Today we name them INFJ, INFP, and INTJ according to the MBTI framework. Carl Jung had another way of describing minds like these: deep intuitives. If you've ever met one, you might not have known their type, but you felt their gravity, an inward pull, an intensity that doesn't need to shout to be heard. And if that sounds familiar, it might be you. Before we dive in, here's why these three get misunderstood so often. On the surface, they look similar: quiet, thoughtful, idealistic. But internally, they're built very differently. INFJs and INTJs share a core pattern-seeking lens, yet one filters it through feeling for people and harmony, the other through thinking for structure and strategy. INFPs are powered by a different engine, a fiercely personal value compass that's fed by bursts of intuitive possibility. Same stillness outside, different storms inside. What follows are the 7 biggest lies the world tells about these types, and the truths that set them free. Lie number 1. They overthink everything. You've heard it, maybe you've believed it. But what most people call overthinking is often refined pattern recognition running in the background. INFJs aren't replaying conversations to torment themselves. They're mapping relational dynamics, tiny shifts in tone, unspoken needs, recurring tensions, so they can move with care instead of collision. That long stare into the middle distance? It's not indecision. It's a quiet audit of cause and effect. If I say this, what does it open? If I say nothing, what does it close? INFPs aren't stuck because they're afraid to choose. They're aligning choice with conscience. For them, right isn't a crowd average. It's an inner click that says, this fits who I am. Until it clicks, they keep searching, not for perfection, but for truth. That can look like delay to others. To an INFP, it's integrity. INTJs aren't running mental circles. They're running simulations. Change one variable and the whole system shifts. They see that 3 steps ahead. Where others see analysis paralysis, the INTJ sees risk control. Move too soon and you pay later. Wait one more beat and the move becomes inevitable. The truth, none of these types worship thinking for its own sake. They honor alignment. Their extra time isn't hesitation, it's calibration. And when the inner compass points to yes, they move fast, faster than people expect, because the groundwork was already laid in silence. Lie number 2, they're emotionally cold. This one hurts because it misreads privacy as absence. INFJs often feel others before they feel themselves. In conflict, they'll absorb tension to protect the room, suppressing their own reaction to keep the peace. People mistake that calm for emptiness. It's not. It's containment. Later, when everyone leaves, the INFJ finally exhales what they carried for everyone else. INFPs feel like a deep well, quiet at the surface, thunderous below. If they don't trust the space, they don't share the water. Not because they're indifferent, but because their feelings are sacred. If you've ever watched an INFP open up, you know it's not performance, it's confession. They would rather say nothing than say something that isn't real. INTJs rarely publicize emotion because it disrupts the model. They transmute feeling into strategy. What is this emotion telling me about the system? How do I correct the root? When you don't see tears, you might see a plan. That plan is the feeling processed into action. The truth, these types aren't cold, they're custodians. They carry emotion carefully, so it doesn't get warped by the wrong audience. If you're inside the trust boundary, you'll see warmth that would surprise their critics. Lie number 3, they think they're superior. Depth can look like distance, and distance gets mistaken for ego. INFJs say less because they're watching trajectories. They won't argue every point because they're trying to understand the pattern that produces those points. That quiet can look like condescension. It's actually focus. INFPs opt out of performative debates because winning often requires betraying their values. They don't need to dominate you, they need to stay true. When they step away, it's not "I'm above this," it's "I won't become this." INTJs prefer to build without applause. While everyone is reacting to the latest trend, they're architecting systems that outlast trends. That can come across as aloof. Under the hood, it's responsibility. When the noise fades, will this still work? Detachment isn't superiority, it's insulation so the blueprint isn't distorted. The truth, what looks like arrogance is usually self-protection. When you've been misunderstood for years, you stop offering your inner world for casual interpretation. If you're invited into theirs, understand the honor you've been given. Lie number 4, they're antisocial loners. Solitude isn't a rejection, it's a resource. INFJs refuel by withdrawing from the crowd's static. After enough noise, their empathy becomes signal-saturated. Alone time resets the dial so they can hear people clearly again. INFPs need open space for imagination and meaning to breathe. Crowded schedules crush the slow, organic process that creates their best insights. Alone doesn't mean lonely, it means authentic. They'll happily return to community, especially with people who value what they bring. INTJs use solitude like a lab. It's where they prototype, stress test, and eliminate weak assumptions. The product of that lab, the strategy, the system, the solution, is what allows them to re-engage with impact. The truth, these types often love people, just not at the cost of their operating system. Give them room to reset and they'll give you their best. Lie number 5, they're indecisive and weak. Quiet doesn't equal passive. INFJs will wait and wait and wait, then move decisively when the pattern resolves. They aren't addicted to action, they're committed to timing. If you've ever seen an INFJ say enough, you've seen a boundary that won't be negotiated. INFPs may mull over options, but when a choice aligns with their values, they become immovable. That's not weakness, that's steel with a velvet surface. They won't bulldoze you, but they will outlast you. INTJs can look detached in discussion because the decision already happened internally. Once the logic is clear, they execute. If new data appears, they pivot quickly. Not because they're fickle, but because truth outranks pride. The truth, decisiveness isn't about volume or speed. It's about clarity. These types choose when it matters, and when they choose, it sticks. Lie number 6. They're unrealistic idealists. People throw idealist around like it's an insult. The real question is, do your ideals change anything? INFJs carry ideals into the mess of human relationships. They don't fantasize about harmony, they practice it, mediating conflict, naming needs, designing environments where people can breathe. INFPs don't chase a utopia. They steward a moral north. Their art, writing, parenting, mentoring, whatever form it takes, shifts atmospheres because it reminds people who they are. That's not unrealistic, that's restorative. INTJs are idealists in the most practical sense. They hold a vision of how a system should function and engineer reality to match. They remove friction, plug leaks, and replace bad incentives with better ones. If that's idealism, it's the kind that ships. The truth, idealism becomes unrealistic when it refuses to work with reality. These types engage reality deeply, so deeply that they can reroute it. Lie number 7, they're all the same. Lumping INFJ, INFP, and INTJ together is the laziest lie of all. Yes, they share quiet and depth, but their inner architecture is distinct. The INFJ is a pattern reader for people. Their mind drifts naturally toward, what's the emotional system here? What happens next if no one intervenes? They anticipate outcomes not to control people, but to protect them. When healthy, they become wise stewards of group dynamics, using insight to prevent harm and invite growth. When unhealthy, they can manipulate for peace, sacrificing their own needs until resentment cracks the surface. The INFP is a guardian of authenticity. Their attention moves from the inner compass outward. What choice honors truth? They're wired for meaning, not metrics. Healthy INFPs become powerful storytellers, counselors, and creators because they refuse to counterfeit their voice. Unhealthy patterns look like withdrawal into fantasy or endless postponement, waiting for perfect conditions instead of starting with imperfect courage. The INTJ is an architect of systems. Their attention asks, what's the core logic? Where is the failure point? They bear the burden of long-range thinking in short-term cultures. Healthy INTJs design structures that empower others, better processes, smarter tools, clearer roles. Unhealthy patterns show up as cynicism, bulldozing, or rusing strategy to outrun emotion that still needs to be faced. The truth, treat them as interchangeable and you'll miss their specific genius. Treat them as distinct and you'll watch each one flourish in their own lane. How the world gets them wrong and how to get them right. Part of the confusion comes from mistaking inputs for outputs. For these types, the important events happen inside long before anything is visible. People assume nothing is happening because nothing is happening externally. But internally, the plan, the conviction, the pivot, it's already decided. If you want to understand them, get curious about their process, not just their product. With INFJs, ask about the pattern they see. What are we not noticing? With INFPs, ask what value is at stake. What would feel true here? With INTJs, ask about the model. What variable are we missing? When you speak to the inner engine, you stop fighting the vehicle. Another cause of misunderstanding is forcing speed. These types can move quickly, but not before they've aligned. Push for instant answers, and you'll get polite resistance from INFJs, principled hesitation from INFPs, and logical stonewalling from INTJs. Give them a little space, and they'll often return with clarity that saves hours or years of mistakes. A third cause is confusing kindness with compliance. INFJs will accommodate until the pattern crosses a moral threshold. Then they'll exit with finality. INFPs may say little in the moment, but they'll restructure their life to remove what violates their core. INTJs will listen to feedback, but if your argument doesn't affect the model, they won't implement it. Respect isn't obedience, it's accuracy. What growth looks like for each type without betraying themselves. INFJ growth means telling the truth sooner. Instead of absorbing every ripple to keep the water still, they name the current. Here's what's happening underneath. Boundaries stop being the last resort and become part of the design. They learn to include themselves in the circle of care. INFP growth means turning conviction into craft. The inner click still matters, but they practice showing up before they feel ready. Drafts, not masterpieces. Iteration, not self-judgment. They translate sacred values into tangible contributions that can serve real people. INTJ growth means integrating emotion into the model. Feelings stop being bugs and start being data. Signals about human limits, belonging, and meaning that improve the architecture. They don't lose their edge. They become humane strategists whose systems people want to live inside. None of this means becoming louder versions of themselves. It means becoming clearer ones. Individuation, Jung's word for this process, doesn't ask you to perform a self. It invites you to become one. How to support them, and how they can support themselves. If you love an INFJ, don't punish their quiet with suspicion. Ask what they see, not why they're so distant. Invite their insight before the crisis, not after it. They'll show up. If you love an INFP, don't mock their standards as too sensitive. Ask what matters here and why. Give them time to name it, then help them protect it. They'll bring a depth of loyalty you can't buy. If you love an INTJ, don't take their calm as rejection. Ask for the model, challenge it with real data, and watch them happily improve it. They don't need you to emote like them. They need you to think with them. For the types themselves, trust your rhythm, but don't hide behind it. If you need time, say so. If you need truth, ask for it. If you need structure, build it. Moving at your internal pace isn't an excuse to avoid contact with reality. It's a way to meet reality with your full strength. Why the lies spread, and why they don't have to define you. The lies persist because they're easy shortcuts. It's simpler to call someone cold than to earn their trust. It's easier to call someone arrogant than to accept that their silence has a purpose. It's more comfortable to say overthinking than to admit you're witnessing an operating system that you don't understand. But shortcuts create caricatures, and caricatures are not people. You don't have to fight every misunderstanding. You do need to recognize when a space cannot or will not understand you, and stop treating that as your defect. Find better rooms. Find cleaner mirrors. Pour your complexity where it can water something, not where it's treated like a leak. A final word to each type. INFJ, your sensitivity is not a glitch, it's a guidance system. Use it openly with boundaries. Name the pattern, then let people choose. You are not responsible for saving everyone from outcomes they're committed to. You are responsible for telling the truth you can see. INFP, Your conscience is a compass, not a cage. Let it point you, not paralyze you. The world doesn't need your perfection, it needs your presence. Share the draft, sing the unfinished song, say the real thing. Your honesty creates oxygen. INTJ, your vision is a gift when people can live in it. Build systems that remember humans. Precision and warmth are not enemies. When you integrate both, people follow you not just because you are right, but because they feel safe being owned by you. If you've been told you're too much, too quiet, too complicated, pause. Their discomfort isn't your diagnosis. Some minds aren't meant to blend in. They're designed to read the pattern beneath the noise and then reshape the noise with what they've learned. That's not arrogance. That's stewardship. If today's breakdown helped you understand yourself or someone you love, hit subscribe for the next deep dive. Drop a comment with the lie you've heard most and the truth you're choosing instead. Share this with a friend who's been told they overthink or feel too much. Keep your pace, trust your compass, and I'll see you in the next one.